What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we're going to be talking about the disappearance of Eric Lee Franks. I came across this case many years ago on the show Disappeared, and the episode was called The One That Got Away. Now, I always say to you guys, this is a wild ride, hang on, but let me tell you something right now. This is a wild freaking ride. I tried to put it into a two-parter, and actually it's going to be a three-parter. This case is crazy. There are so many twists and turns. Just when you think you have it figured out, something else happens and you're like, oh, that can't be it. It's absolutely insane. So, yeah, let's just dive right into this case, guys, because we have a ton to cover. Although I don't know his actual birth date, what I do know is that Eric Lee Franks was adopted at just 5 weeks old, and a few years after he was adopted, his parents had a biological daughter. So Eric had a younger sister. They were a really, really tight-knit family, super duper close. Just kind of like the perfect TV family if you sat back and watched from afar. It's really evident when you watch like something like the Disappeared episode or any interview where his mother's talking about Eric or his disappearance. You can just feel the love coming off of this woman, how much she loves her family, how much she loves Eric. Just her sheer determination really got to me and made me want to, again, reach out and give her a hug and comfort her, because you can tell how much she really loves and cherishes Eric. Shortly after his younger sister was born, Eric and his family moved to Nashville, Tennessee. They moved a lot when he was younger, but this is where he grew up and spent most of his childhood. His parents were very much involved with the church, and I don't know like what religion they followed. I think Christianity, but I don't know 100%. And Eric was known kind of as the wild child, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. He was just charming and charismatic, outgoing, outspoken. He was the class clown. He had so many people that he considered friends. People just gravitated towards him. He had kind of a larger than life personality. And I can totally, while I'm researching this, picture this guy in my head. He reminds me of someone I know, and he's just one of those people that you can't help but absolutely love being around. The life of the party, the fun guy, but also sweet and kind of your best friend. You know what I'm saying? He was described as so energetic and just full of life. He loved having fun, and he loved making sure others around him had fun too. He'd be the first one to cheer you up if you were down, and you couldn't help but laugh if Eric was trying to cheer you up. He was just that guy. If you guys can see, I can't help but smile just talking about him, because I feel like I've gotten to know him a little bit through researching this case. And yeah, I just can't help but smile when I think of Eric. Starting right up towards the end of middle school and all through high school, Eric decided what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. He decided on a career path, and that was to move to California and become either a screenwriter or a producer. So he had big dreams. Due to his imagination and larger than life personality, I really think that he would have done so well in this field had he gotten the opportunity. Eric did not go after this dream immediately upon graduating high school, though. Like, he was level-headed, and he knew that he couldn't just up and move to California and bam, become a screenwriter or a producer. He knew that he had to have a plan, he had to have money, he had to have, certain goals that he had to reach first. So he took some time off. He just kind of chilled, hung out, saved up his money, got himself a car. And, he wasn't one to give up on his dream, and he was going to make it happen, but he was trying to be smart about it. So he did take some time off after graduating high school instead of just taking off to Cali with no plan, right? I don't know what his sign was, but probably not a water sign. Yeah. When Eric was 19 years old, he decided that he wanted to meet his biological family. Remember, he was adopted at just 5 weeks old. And I'm not sure if Eric was aware his whole life, or if he had just found out when he was 19 and started researching, looking into finding his biological parents, that his biological mother had passed away when he was very young. He did, however, end up meeting some of his other blood relatives, and Eric kind of wasn't looking for like a new family. He wasn't looking to bring these people in to be his new family. He wasn't looking to be super involved in their lives, but he wanted to meet them. He wanted to know where he came from. He was 19 years old, and this was kind of important to him just to see where he came from. So he did end up finding some other relatives, and he was just so curious that he needed to satisfy that part of him. I could probably have found out which relatives he met from his mother's side, his father's side, what happened to his father, but it's really not relevant to the case. What I can tell you, and this case is long enough, but what I can tell you is that he met some of them, he spent some time with some of them, and then he kind of moved on. I'm not even sure if he kept in touch with whatever relatives he had met. But I just wanted to kind of let you see the picture of how Eric was. He just wanted to meet these people just to kind of satisfy his curiosity. That's just the kind of guy he was. And it's really important that we get a big and straight picture of Eric and who he was before we go further, because like I said, you're really going to need to hang on, guys, for this one. So with that being said, just as Eric had to go and satisfy his curiosity about anything he wondered about, let's go and do the same and jump into what happened, what might have happened, what could have happened, because we don't actually know what did happen to Eric Franks. When Eric was either still 19 or possibly right after he turned 20, and the details are a little weird on that, Eric's mother was working in the local mall, and she was working in a store there where she met a 15-year-old girl named Kendra. And although she says that she does not remember this at all, she states that Eric had told her that she had been the one to introduce Kendra and Eric. Kendra and Eric, with Kendra being 15, Eric being 19 or 20, remained friends for quite a long time after being introduced. They kind of just connected, but she was so young. So obviously it wasn't like a relationship kind of thing, but he did find her interesting, and they did become friends. At this time in his life, Eric had just moved into his very first apartment out of his parents' house, and he was kind of just letting loose, enjoying life, dating several different girls, but he always kept in touch with Kendra. And again, the details are a bit sketch on her age, but when she was either 16 or 17, about a year and a half later, and Eric had just turned 21, the two did start dating. They did start a romantic relationship. Like I just said, Eric was dating a few girls at this time. He was kind of enjoying his freedom. So he really didn't mention to his family when Kendra first came along, because he was dating several girls and he didn't realize how special Kendra was going to end up being. So his family didn't know much about Kendra, or maybe, I'm not even sure if they even knew he was dating her. Like, they knew he was friends with her. The mom had introduced them, but as far as their romantic relationship, he didn't speak much to his family or his mother about it, which was kind of odd because Eric basically told his mother everything. And he had a lot of friends, but he had a few close friends, his circle that he told everything to. And he didn't mention Kendra that much to them either, which is weird, with how important Kendra ends up being to him and to this entire story. Very shortly after starting this romantic relationship with Kendra, however, Eric left all the other girls pretty much in the dust. He fell head over heels for Kendra. He even started planning their future, getting married, having children in his mind. He was just blown away by her, completely obsessed, in love, infatuated, whatever you want to call it, with this one girl. She was his first love and the absolute love of Eric's life. There is a lot of conflicting information out there as to why they broke up. All I can tell you for a fact is that they did break up, and it wasn't very long after they started dating. However, this left Eric extremely devastated and heartbroken. He was almost to the point of being despondent. Even though they had just dated for such a short time, remember, they were friends for a while before they started dating. And Eric, like I said, she was his first love. She was the love of his life. And unfortunately, she would be for the rest of his life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So the information I see reported the most about why the couple broke up, and again, this, I can't even verify this as fact, but I can tell you this is what most of the reliable information, the reliable sources say, the reason that Eric and Kendra broke up. And the reason was because of a man named John, a guy named John. Kendra had an ex-boyfriend back in Saginaw, Michigan, where she was from, who she was madly in love with, who was her first love. And I don't know how, she was so young, but he was her first love. And he had gotten contact with her while she was dating Eric and decided that he wanted to get back together with her. And one day Kendra just packed up, left, told Eric, like, hey, I'm sorry, my friend John is going to come get me. I want to go home to Saginaw and be with my family, and I don't want you to come. It's over. And this guy, John, came to Tennessee, picked her up, and brought her back to Saginaw. And that was the last Eric heard of Kendra. She kind of left him in the dust, left him heartbroken, and just wondering what the heck had happened. Like, how could this happen? Can you imagine that? Like, with your first love, that's how it ends. And it came out of the clear blue sky, according to everyone who was there. From what they knew, Eric did not see this coming. Like I said, he was planning their future together. He was planning on marrying her and having children. He was ready to give her his entire life. And she just up one day randomly and seemingly out of nowhere and left with this other guy, John. This breakup seemed to have a devastating, like I said, and profound effect on Eric. And he decided that, he was done with love, at least for a little while, and decided to start actively pursuing his pretty much lifelong dream of becoming a producer. Eric moved to Los Angeles shortly after Kendra left and was determined to make his dream a reality. However, despite all of the thought that he wanted to put into it and all the planning that he wanted to put into it, which is the reason he took some time off after graduating high school before moving to LA to do this, because he was so heartbroken and just didn't know what to do anymore without Kendra, he had given up on the plan and given up on the waiting, and he kind of just took off to LA on a whim, basically, which is exactly what he was trying not to do in the first place. But I guess he said, F it, F love, I'm going to become a producer. I'm going to realize my dream. So he did. He took off. Eric absolutely loved Los Angeles. He loved the lights and the people and the fast pace, the hustle bustle. He loved everything about it. However, he did not realize how expensive it was going to be to live there. He couldn't afford it, working the odd jobs he was working. And also, he didn't realize before he went there, but he very quickly found out that wannabe producers are a dime a dozen in Los Angeles. And it became clear very quickly that Eric was not going to be able to achieve this lifelong goal. So essentially another heartbreak for him. When I watched the Disappeared episode and when I started doing more research about this move to California, I think this is what opened up this wanderlust in Eric. He had this wanderlust, is the only way I can really put it. Just, he wanted to go. He wanted to see places. He didn't want to settle in one place for too long. I guess he was getting bored very easily. Maybe he was running from his past with Kendra. Maybe he was running from his past with Kendra and the fact that he realized he cannot achieve his lifelong dream. He didn't know what to do next. But he was constantly on the move there for quite a while, moving from place to place to place, not really putting in roots anywhere, not really settling down anywhere. The way I put it in my notes here was that he started living on a whim from then on. So he quickly packed up and left California, and for no other reason I could find other than simply he wanted to, he packed up and moved to Mississippi. While Eric still intended to pursue his dreams, even though he realized it was quite a lofty goal, he wanted to put a plan in action. However, he decided at this point that he missed not only Kendra, but what he had with her, and he wanted a family of his own. He wanted to just love and be loved by somebody. And when he went to Mississippi, this is exactly what he found. At the age of 26 years old, Eric met a woman named Gail who had a son from a previous relationship that she was in. And she and Eric got together, and Eric fell in love with both of them very, very quickly. He had gotten exactly what he thought he had wanted, this ready-made family, a son and a woman that loved him as much as he loved them and depended on him and needed him, and he depended on and needed them. So he had his family in Mississippi at the age of 26 when he met her, and he was really excited. He was really super happy and genuinely happy for the first time in a long time. Eric and Gail did end up getting married, and Eric felt like he had finally found the sense of belonging that he had been craving ever since Kendra left and ever since leaving the tight circle and close-knit of his family home. He found belonging with Gail and her son, and they were incredibly happy for a while. For the three of them, all was right with the world for quite a while. However, in 2006, Eric lost his father. His father passed away, and he loved and adored his father. He was super close to his father. He was definitely daddy's boy most of his life. I think he was a bit of a mama's boy too, being the only son. I totally understand that, how that happens. But he was absolutely devastated. And this put a little bit of a strain on his marriage to Gail and on their relationship. A recession also hit, and Eric ended up losing his job. I'm not sure what he was doing, but he lost his job as well. So everything's going great, but then all of a sudden his father, his hero, his role model dies and leaves him totally crushed and devastated. His family was living in Ohio at this point, and he was still living in Mississippi. And then he loses his job, and he's no longer able to provide for his family, for his stepson and his wife, Gail. This obviously caused a huge strain on the couple, financial strain, especially, not to mention Eric's emotions about his father. So they decided to pack up and move to Ohio to be closer to Eric's family, whom, as I just stated, had just moved to Ohio themselves. Therefore, they would have the support of Eric's mother, his sister, and his extended family. They wouldn't just be kind of lagging on their own in a whole different state. Plus, I think Eric wanted to be there to emotionally support his mother, as she had just lost her husband. Just to give you a bit of a time frame for how long Eric and Gail were together, Eric had been in Mississippi for 15 years at this point when he had up and moved to Ohio to be closer to his family with Gail and his stepson. So he's now in his early 30s, mid 30s. I'm not sure exactly what age. I just wrote that 15 years had passed. But it seemed like Eric was starting to get really kind of that wanderlust again. He was starting to get antsy. And as I always say, wherever you go, there you are. You can't outrun yourself. You can't outrun your problems. And Eric had no better luck finding a stable job or being able to financially support his family in Ohio than he had in Mississippi. And the financial strain was putting way too much pressure and stress on the marriage, the whole relationship. Eric started feeling lonely, and it seems that sense of connection, that sense of belonging that he had once found was starting to go or already gone. And even though he was surrounded by love and surrounded by his family, his wife, his stepson, he was feeling very, very lonely. And this is where Eric discovered Facebook. Being able to get himself out there again and have all of these Facebook friends, reconnect with people from the past and make new friends in the area. Eric was that kind of guy. He was outgoing, friendly, charming. He was just an all-around friendly guy, and he needed to be surrounded by people. I wonder if he was a Leo. But anyway, sorry, that's my astrology mind. But anyway, he gets this Facebook account, and he starts reaching out to people, friends from high school, friends from Mississippi, and this really helps him with his loneliness, and he just all in all started to feel better. If you don't already know where this is going, let me tell you. Eric decided that despite being married, he desperately needed to reach out and find and reconnect with one person from his past, one person only, one person in particular. Can you guess? Kendra. That's right. Eric was desperate to find Kendra on Facebook. No matter how desperately he searched, though, or how hard he tried to find her, he simply could not find her on Facebook or online at all. And he was getting really agitated and kind of like, what happened to her? He was starting to get worried. I mean, he looked everywhere for her. While he thought it was a long shot, he figured, why the heck not? What does he have to lose? He decided to contact the guy, John, who he did find on Facebook, the ex-boyfriend of Kendra who picked her up to move her back to Michigan, who she allegedly wanted to be with. And he figured that he would reach out to John and send him a Facebook message and ask him if he knew where Kendra was and how Eric can get in touch with Kendra. He actually got a response back through Facebook Messenger from John, and John told him that he did in fact know where Kendra was and that he would reach out to Kendra and let her know that Eric was looking for her and trying to reconnect and contact her through Facebook. Eric gave his phone number and information to John, and John promised he would pass it along to Kendra because he said, essentially, it's Kendra's choice if she wants to reconnect with you, but I will give her your information and I will tell her that you are trying to find her and that you're looking to, rekindle the friendship. Eric thanked John. Eric couldn't believe his good luck that long shot had paid off and turned out great. And he waited with bated breath every second after he sent and received that message back from John for Kendra to contact him. And she did. At this point, Eric was telling everyone he spoke to, anyone who would listen, that he had finally been able to reach out to someone who knew where Kendra was. He told everyone that Kendra was the love of his life and she was, quote, the one that got away, end quote. That's how he described her. That's the name of the Disappeared episode as well. So he still had a thing for her, and he was still married to Gail and still living with Gail and still in that relationship. But I think emotionally, and because of all the stress and strain, and just sometimes as time passes on, we fall out of that love and the excitement kind of wears off, and some people aren't just meant to be. And Eric at this point, I guess, did not care that he was married, or maybe he was fooling himself into thinking he was just looking for friendship with Kendra, but he was telling anyone who would listen, even putting on Facebook, how he was finally going to reunite with the love of his life, with the one that got away. He was also telling people that he was looking forward to maybe rekindling his romantic relationship with her when she contacted him, once he saw where she was in her life. So he had never stopped loving her. He had never stopped thinking about her, even 16 years later. So she was his first love, after all. To Eric's surprise, he got another message back from John, though, after John told him that he would contact Kendra. I guess John decided that he should be the one to tell Eric the news. And imagine Eric's surprise when John told him that he and Kendra had been together ever since he had picked her up from Tennessee and brought her back to Saginaw, Michigan 16 years earlier. They were married and they had 2 daughters. He did say, though, that if Eric still wanted him to pass along the message to Kendra, that he in fact would, but it would ultimately be her choice. But he just wanted to let Eric know the situation, that Kendra was happily married. They'd been married all these 16 years and they'd been together the whole time and they had children. So he, I guess, wanted to make it known to Eric, like, look, that's my wife, but I'm going to give her the information because she's a grown woman and she can make the choice to be friends with you if she chooses. I'm not going to stand in the way. So Kendra did eventually reach out to Eric and they just started talking. She knew Eric was married to Gail and that he had a stepson. He knew that Kendra was married to John all these years and that they had 2 daughters. And they, I guess, were just being friendly, just reconnecting, talking about old times. You guys know how it is. But one night, Eric was on Facebook scrolling through Kendra's photos, just kind of looking at her and seeing what she looked like and where her life went. And that's when he noticed a picture of Kendra's daughters, a recent picture that she had put up. And he was looking at one daughter in particular, and he saw something, I guess, that he recognized, because he then looked at the birth date and he realized, he did some quick math in his head and realized that Kendra had given birth to this girl 16 years earlier, but within 9 months of leaving him. So Eric thought that this young girl, Kendra's 16-year-old daughter, could in fact very well be his biological daughter. And he kind of freaked out a little bit, not in a bad way, but he was just like, oh my God. So he asked Kendra flat out, is this girl Emily, that was the daughter's name, my daughter? Please tell me the truth. It's been 16 years. I deserve to know. Kendra at first kind of laughed it off, but she refused to give a straight answer, and Eric was getting frustrated. He was not backing down. Remember, all Eric ever wanted was his own family, and could you imagine how ecstatic he was feeling that he had a biological daughter with the love of his life, with the one that got away? Even though, he's not the kind of guy that was going to be mad that she kept it from him the whole time. He was just going to be excited that the girl was back in his life at all. So after some pushing and some back and forth and him not backing down, Kendra did admit that Eric is Emily's biological father. She had kept it from him all this time because she and John had just decided to not complicate things, and she wanted to leave Tennessee and everything about it behind, and that they would raise Emily and get married as John's daughter, and then the younger daughter was John's. Kendra claimed to be 2 months pregnant when she left Eric, and it's unclear whether she knew at the time that she left, if that was some of her reasoning for leaving, or if when she found out, that's when she and John had decided. Did she call him and say, hey, I'm pregnant with this guy's baby, but I don't want to be with him, I want to be with you, blah, blah, blah. Or did she go off with John and then be like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant? I don't know, but I do wonder about that. I always want to know, those small little details that, we'll never know, and it drives me absolutely nuts. But moving on, Gemma. So I hope that I've gotten his personality across to you. clearly enough that when I tell you what Eric did next, you'll just kind of laugh and be like, oh, that's just Eric, and not be too surprised. When Kendra confirmed that Emily was in fact Eric's biological daughter, he was ready to leave everything behind in Ohio, pack his car up, and move immediately to Michigan to be near Kendra and his daughter. He wasn't thinking about Gail. He wasn't thinking about his stepson. He was like over that situation. That situation was pretty much ended anyway when he reconnected with Kendra. But he was like that wanderlust, that boisterous, go get 'em kind of personality. He was ready to do that. That's just the type of man Eric was, and he had always been that way. He was spontaneous and over the top. And if he felt any type of negative way about the fact that Kendra had kept this from him all these years, it didn't show. However, with as excited and happy and ecstatic, over the moon, whatever Eric was, his friends and family were a bit more skeptical. They knew what Kendra had done to him, how she had randomly took off with another man, broke his heart completely, devastated him. They wanted him to get a DNA test. But Eric stood firm and he said, no, the girl Emily, she looks like me. If Kendra says that I'm the biological father, I love Kendra. I trust her, even after what she did, even after all these years. No paternity test is being done here. See, Eric was kind-hearted and he was good and honest. And I guess he always wanted to see that in the people that he loved and cared for too. And he still loved and cared for Kendra. So he only wanted to see the good in her. He wanted to see honesty and kindness. His family and friends didn't see that because this was a girl who, again, was dating him, said she was in love with him, said he was her first love, the love of her life, and then randomly took off with another guy while she was knowingly pregnant with his baby, and then decided to marry the other guy, raise the baby as that guy's, and keep it from him for 16 years. And I don't know if she ever would have came forward to Eric with this information had he not tracked her down through Facebook randomly. So I don't blame them for being skeptical. But Eric was like not even considering a paternity test. He trusted her. He loved her. He just wanted to know his daughter and he wanted to reconnect with Kendra. He said in however way she was willing to. So be it friendship, be it rekindling a romantic relationship, which obviously was going to be hard because she was married to John. So whatever she wanted, he was ready. But he wanted to get to know his daughter most of all. He was super excited to find out that he was a dad. He had a biological child. Obviously, Gail was not happy about this, and this put a ton more strain on the couple's already almost broken relationship. And within 2 years of moving to Ohio, Gail filed for divorce and took her son and left Eric for good. Eric, being Eric, just looked at this as more of a reason to pursue getting to know his daughter. He looked at it as a good opportunity. And now he was able to just pick up and leave without worrying about leaving behind any responsibility and just go and get to know his daughter. On October 25th, 2010, Eric packed up his car and left Ohio and his family and everything he had known for so many years behind and moved to Michigan to be closer to Kendra and their daughter, Emily. He packed up everything he could fit in the car. He wasn't really worried about bringing anything with him. He figured he could live by the seat of his pants, live on a whim. That was so Eric, right? And he was super excited and motivated about meeting his daughter, about his future of being her father. And also in his mind, he was kind of looking forward to rekindling that romantic relationship with Kendra too. And whether he said so or not, that was very much on his mind. He told his mother that while he did have that in his mind, his main goal was to get to know his daughter. Whether reconciliation romantically with Kendra happened or not, his main focus, his main goal, his main concern was being a father to Emily after all of these years of not even knowing she existed. He also stated that he planned on staying in Michigan indefinitely because he was determined to be a part of his daughter's life. So come hell or high water, he was now going to make sure he was a father to Emily. He felt he had already missed out on so much, and he was not willing to miss out on another second of her life, regardless of who liked it or who didn't. He was just hoping that Kendra would go along with it. I mean, she seemed like she was okay with him meeting their daughter. When he got to Michigan, Eric bounced from place to place to place for a little while until finally he settled at the Miller Motel in Bridgeport, Michigan. And Bridgeport is less than a 15-minute drive from where Kendra and Emily were living, still in Saginaw, Michigan. So he was super close to them, and that was kind of on purpose. He wanted to be super close to them to have access to his daughter. Eric, obviously, because he left again on a whim, didn't have a lot of possessions, didn't have much money, ended up at the Miller Motel, which did not have the best reputation, but it was cheap. And sometimes he got to know the owner, and sometimes he would work like around the property, around the motel to kind of earn his room for the night, while he did odd jobs, odds and ends here and there to make, his other money to be financially stable. He called a temp agency every single day and went out and did whatever the work they had. And just keep in mind going forward, because it's going to come up later. I don't know if it's in this episode, this part, or the next two. He became very, very close with the motel owner because of these odd jobs that he was doing. Eric always made the best of every situation, and that's exactly what he did while staying at the Miller Motel. He knew there was a lot of shady people, a lot of shady dealings going on around him, but he didn't let that affect him. He was completely optimistic. He didn't care about how much money he had or didn't have. He didn't care about how much possessions he had or didn't have. He cared about being close to Emily and Kendra. What a sweet, kind-hearted man. Eric called his mother not all the time, but when he had to ask her a question or when he really needed someone to talk to. And when he was in Michigan, he called her multiple times in the beginning, expressing his frustration about how the situation with Kendra and Emily was unfolding now that he was actually in Michigan and it was time for Kendra to act. Eric told his mother that he had a lot of concern about Kendra's intentions because since he had been in Michigan, he could barely even get Kendra on the phone or get in touch with her. He still hadn't met his daughter. He still hadn't met up with Kendra. She always had some excuse for why she couldn't talk to him, why she couldn't answer the phone, why she couldn't call him back, why she couldn't meet him, why she couldn't introduce him to Emily. It was just excuse after excuse after excuse. And he was getting really frustrated and he was concerned about what were her intentions. Why did she agree that he should move to Michigan to be closer to their daughter and to get to know their daughter when now that he was here for a couple of months, he still hadn't even met or spoken to his daughter. His daughter still did not even know he existed, and he had been there for at least 2 months at this point. It seemed to him that Kendra, shocker, wasn't being entirely truthful about how she felt about him getting to know his daughter. And he was getting quite agitated with her and frustrated because she talked with him when he made this huge move, left everything behind, and he was perfectly okay with doing that. But Kendra had encouraged him to do it so that he could be closer and get to know Emily and get to see her again. So why would she do that if she had no intention of letting him meet his daughter? So I mean, you've got to see where the frustration could come in there. According to Eric, of what he told his mother, Kendra had seemed super excited about him moving down there, and she had even hinted that there was a chance that she and him would get back together. He even stated that he thought she was kind of waffling or going back on her word altogether because she would state things like, "Oh, John and I don't know if it's such a good idea for you to meet Emily. She grew up thinking John was her biological father. It might traumatize her. How is it going to affect Emily?" And she would also say things like, "John doesn't think it's such a good idea, and I might not either, that you meet Emily at all." And again, she was the one who helped convince him to make this huge move. Eric did not allow this to discourage him, though, and he, just like he did with everything else, every other struggle in his life, when he wanted something, he worked really hard and fought, stood his ground to get it, and he persevered. After going back and forth for a couple of months, he finally got it so that Kendra was picking him up once a week at the motel, and she would bring Emily with her. They would do things like go roller skating, they would go to the movies, they would go and get food, they would go sit in the park and talk, they would kind of just hang out. Eric was not introduced to Emily as his biological father right away, just as his mom's old high school friend that she had kind of reconnected with because he had moved to Michigan. I don't know what they told the girl, but it was nothing having to do with Eric being her biological father. Eric would post all of these crazy, funny pictures of him with Emily and him with Kendra all over social media, all over Facebook, and he seemed so genuinely happy for the first time pretty much since Kendra had left and broken his heart. I don't know, like I can't even describe the photos. I'm going to try to find some. I'll put them in here. Just so happy, so goofy. Eric, the kid at heart, was just fantastically content and happy just to be meeting his daughter in whatever capacity he was able to. And he had a feeling that he would persevere on the next step too, which was getting Kendra to admit to Emily that Eric was her biological father. Eric did everything he could to impress his new daughter and his old flame, he basically was just being himself. And Emily absolutely loved and adored Eric. She thought he was funny and happy-go-lucky and charming. Everything that he was, she saw it. He gave all of himself to the relationship with her, even though at this point she didn't even know. She just thought he was a cool guy and he was a cool person to hang out with. I wonder if she was wondering why her mom was only bringing her, not her sister, to go hang out with this random guy from high school without like her dad, without John. But I don't know. There's no information about that. That's just my lizard brain thinking here of how this girl, what she must have thought. Did she have any idea? Eric's main intention, after all, was just to get to know his daughter and be a good father to her. And the relationship blossoming with Kendra would just be a bonus. But eventually, that is what seemed to be happening, that he was rekindling this romantic relationship with Kendra while trying to kind of be involved in his daughter's life and convince Kendra and possibly John that they needed to tell Emily that he was in fact her biological father. He was not backing down from this. He was putting up with it for the time being, but make no mistake, he was not going to continue playing this charade of the friend. He was, going to let it be known eventually to Emily, if Kendra and John did not, that he was in fact her father. While all of this was unfolding, Eric kept in contact with his mother. She was his best friend. He told her all of his hopes, his fears, his dreams, his anxieties about the situation, basically keeping her apprised of how the situation was unfolding and what was going on as it was happening. Eric told his mother that Kendra had told him that she and John were going through a separation anyway. They weren't really together. They, the flame had gone out of their marriage. They were planning on separating at the very least, at most divorcing. They had already talked about it. So she was essentially telling him that there really was a chance that Kendra, that she and him could be together again. Eric even told his mom that Kendra had taken her two daughters, so Emily and Kendra's daughter with John, and moved out of the marital home into her own place. I don't know if this was ever found to be a fact. If it was, I couldn't come across the information, but I'm just telling you what Eric thought. This is what Kendra had told him, that she had taken her daughters and moved into a new place. I don't know if Eric had ever been to this place. I don't know if it was even true, but this is what Eric thought. This is what Kendra told him, and this is what he had reiterated to his mother. So Kendra and Eric were essentially back together. In Eric's mind, she had left John with her two daughters to move out so that she and Eric could be back together and raise Emily and possibly John's biological daughter as well together. Eric couldn't have been happier. Can you imagine the love of your life, your first love, comes back into your life all these years later? You already have a daughter together and she leaves her husband? He had to have been feeling on top of the world. This man, this was his dream come true. Not only was he getting the family and the sense of belonging that he always wanted back. I mean, Gail had divorced him and left him, took his stepson, who he was very close to, but it was with Kendra. It was with the one that got away. It was with his first love. He had to have been absolutely ecstatic. I know I would have been. On March 10th, 2011, Eric called his mother just like he did any other day. She said he was his usual happy and cheerful self, and he was just calling to kind of chit-chat, to talk to her, and to tell her some more exciting news. He told her that he had gotten a full-time job, again, I don't know doing what, and that the following week he was moving out of the motel. He told her that where he was moving, he would not have cell service, so he may not be in contact with her. Maybe he might be able to email with her, but it wouldn't be on the kind of semi-regular basis that it was at that point. He didn't want her to worry. He said eventually he was going to figure that out with the phone or get a house phone, whatever he was going to do, but he didn't want his mother to worry. So he was finally working full time and making money and becoming financially stable. He had finally been able to move out of the motel. So again, all of his dreams coming true. He was, according to his mother, he told her he was with Kendra and everything was just falling into place finally for Eric Franks. So basically all good things he was just making her aware of so that she wouldn't worry about him if he was not in as frequent contact. He didn't speak to her every day by any means or even every week, but he did check in regularly. And whenever she called him, if he didn't get to the phone, he would always call her right back. And he didn't want her to worry because he was going to have really sucky cell service, and he knew that she'd be trying to get in touch with him and he wouldn't even know it. So he mentioned maybe she could email him just for the time being until he figured something else out. There was so much information in this case that for some reason it wasn't in my notes that Emily did find out that Eric was her biological father. She was super happy about it. And according to Eric, what he told his mother the last time he spoke to her, they were in a really good place and they were making plans for their future. So sorry, guys, my bangs are like cutting my eyes. I have to cut them. Okay. From this point on, every single time Eric's mother tried to call him, he either didn't answer or went straight to voicemail, where she left a message until eventually the voicemail was full. She never got a call back. However, every time she would reach out to call him, she would get an email back from him, and they began corresponding through email. I know what some of you guys may be thinking, because I was thinking it too. Like, your son telling you that he's moving and it's going to have bad cell service is one thing, but going for months on end and only communicating through email is quite another. But keep in mind, Eric was 38 years old at this point. He was extremely independent. He was just reuniting. He was just reuniting with the love of his life. She was going through, I guess, the separation with John, according to what his mother had thought, because that's what Eric had told her. He was just getting to meet his 16-year-old biological daughter for the first time. So he had a lot going on. So when it started to be communication just through email, she didn't think anything of it, nor should she have, really. I mean, it's not like they spoke every single day anyway. She figured he was just living his life and he had a lot on his plate, and he would reconnect with her, through phone whenever he had the time eventually. She did admit, though, that the emails were kind of short and impersonal and weren't really in conversations. They were like choppy pieces of conversation, like kind of blunt and to the point responses, very impersonal, personal, as I said. But she still didn't think anything of it until the month of July came. The last time she had spoken to Eric on the phone and through all of these emails from March until July, she had been speaking to him about him coming to Ohio, possibly with Emily and Kendra, to get he was getting all permanents done in his teeth. So he was getting a full set of permanents in his teeth. He had something wrong with his mouth. I don't know why he had to go to Ohio for it. I really don't. It was some kind of program that everything was being paid for him. He had the appointments. It was super important for him because he did not have the money or the health insurance to get it done in Michigan. I don't know, again, how it was being paid for in July in Ohio, but his mother was constantly reminding him, like, you need to come and do these appointments. Eric was looking forward to the visit. He was excited about it. Even in the emails, he expressed that he was excited about his mother meeting Emily and possibly seeing Kendra again. He stated that it was going to be him and Emily, definitely, and possibly Kendra and her other daughter. But he knew he had these plans. This was super duper important to him. There's no way he would have missed this appointment. And the visit in July, too. He wanted everyone to meet his daughter. However, he did miss this visit, and he did miss these appointments. So once these dates in July came, when Eric was supposed to go for these appointments and come and visit her, once those dates came and went and she still hadn't heard anything from Eric except the emails where he was saying he was excited and he was coming, his mother did start to worry, and she did start to get very suspicious as to what might be going on. However, she still didn't take action. She didn't take action because in the emails, when she finally did get him after these dates in July had come and gone, and she finally kept at trying to contact him, she received an email back from Eric stating that he was looking for a place in Michigan that would cover the full dentures, and he didn't really give an explanation as to why he never showed up, except that, like, I think it was that he was busy, he got tied up. It was some random, nonsensical excuse that his mother really did not understand. She was concerned that he had missed the appointment. She was concerned he was not going to be able to get the work done because he desperately needed. I don't know what was wrong with his teeth at 38 that he needed a full set of dentures. Maybe he just wanted whiter teeth or nicer teeth. I'm speculating right now completely. But anyway, so this is when she started getting really suspicious and was like, okay, something's going on here. Right before the visit was supposed to happen too, Eric told his mother that he was getting rid of his old cell phone, so he would no longer have access to that number, so not to call that phone anymore, and that he was getting a new cell phone and he would give her the number when he got it. So essentially he's telling her now the only way to contact him was through email. Don't leave any more voicemails, don't text, don't call, don't send pictures to that other phone, because he was terminating the number and getting a new one. Perhaps one that had a better plan of service for where he allegedly had moved to across town. He still, however, did not give any kind of explanation, not even a crappy one, as to why he did not show with Emily or even just himself to visit her and his family and get this dental work done. I really hope this information isn't too confusing to you guys. I'm trying to explain it in the most accurate and concise way possible. There's so much conflicting information with all of these cases. I try to go with the information that comes directly from the closest source, which in this case is Eric's best friend, Leah, who we will get to later on, and his mother, and also his good friend, Shane. So if the information is a little confusing, I'm really sorry. I hope that I made it so that you can understand it about the appointments, the phone, because it is a lot to process. Moving on. We're about to end here, so I am going to look down at my notes and we're going to summarize what we came up with in part 1. Eric's last phone conversation was with his mother on March 10th, 2011. During that last conversation, he and his mother finalized plans for him to come and visit in July to introduce Emily to her and the rest of the family, and for him to get some kind of dental work he really needed to have done that was already paid in full while he was there. Eric told her he was moving out of the motel and somewhere where service for his cell was almost non-existent. All further correspondence was done through email, and Eric ended up missing the July visit and dental appointment, although I'm not sure what reason he gave, but whatever it was, it seems it was good enough for his mother. I mean, he had to have given some kind of reason. I just cannot find it. While his mother was a little suspicious, she really wasn't thinking too much into it and just knew he had a lot going on, as we said. We're going to leave off with the two of them supposedly corresponding still through email pretty regularly, and his mother just figuring he's super busy with his new place, getting to know his daughter, the drama with Kendra, his new job, on top of him not having any cell service and having to connect with her exclusively through email, even though the emails he would send back, she would send him these long stories, these long drawn out emails, and he would send her super short and impersonal emails in return. She then received an email that he was throwing away the old phone or getting rid of the old phone and getting new service so that he can have better cell service where he was and be able to talk with her more on the phone or through text rather than exclusively through email. And he's supposed to be sending her the new phone number. So he tells her, do not contact that old phone anymore. I will not have it. It will not be on. No calls had been answered or made to his mother since the day that she spoke to him on March 10th, 2011. The phone's no longer in service, as I said. Guys, stay tuned for part 2 because I guess you can see that it really is a wild ride. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you like coming and hanging out with me. Please subscribe and keep your notification bell on just to make sure you get notified every time I post a video. I'm going to try to post part 2 of this on Wednesday. Please be sure to go over, and I'll put the link in the description box below, to my podcast, Strange Things with Steve Stockton and Gemma Jade. We really need subscribers over there, guys, so that the ads can run and Gemma can get paid. And if you can and are able to and want to support the channel and me financially, please click on one of the links below to become a patron on Patreon. The minimum is $5, but you can donate how much you want or as little as $5. And Patreon only content is coming in January. It's going to be super awesome, guys. Anything is appreciated. Everything helps. I really could use the help. I need equipment and stuff, but I know, like I always say, it's COVID, it's holiday time, there's a recession. Don't even worry about it. If you can't do it financially, please go on over and subscribe to the podcast. It's a great time. We have a really great time. I have some amazing things coming up. I'm involved. I got my hands in like 10 different pots right now, but it's all stuff that I love, all stuff that I enjoy. Hot Mess Recovery is almost ready to be back up. So my Hot Mess fam, thank you so much for sticking by me and staying tuned. I really need to move that channel so I can keep it real. Also, if you don't want to do monthly and you don't want to deal with Patreon, you can click on the link below to just donate some cash one time to my PayPal, and that also goes directly into my account. Guys, I really would appreciate it if you can help in any way, whether it's by subscribing, sharing, getting people to subscribe, going over and subscribing to the podcast. There are going to be other channels too. Like I said, Crime Mom with Gemma Jade, where all of my audio from my previous true crime videos, this video included, and my next true crime videos, is going to be up and running probably by February as well. I hope. I want to say hello and what's up, girl, to Natasha R, who is my friend from New Jersey here. I don't know how she didn't see on Facebook that I've been posting all of my videos, but she's like, oh my God, I came across your channel. And I was like, oh my God, is that her? Girl, you totally made my day this morning. Thank you so much. You are an absolute gem. You are a total member of GJ fam and a gemster to the max. Yeah, you know I'm a dork. And I love you very much. And I'm so glad to see that you're doing well in life too, because it's been a long time since I saw you. Remember Clifton, girl? Hmm? Guys, be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything and can gain you so much. Thank you so much once again for hanging out with me. Don't forget, become a patron. You guys are going to get exclusive content. Link in the description box. If you don't want to do that, donate once, however much you want, through PayPal. Help me out. I need a background. I need a mic. Let's get this party started. Also, link in the description box. And if you cannot do that, or even if you can, if you're interested, if you love hanging out with me, please go over to Strange Things with Steve Stockton and Gemma Jade and subscribe there. Yes, I'm being repetitive, but these are things that I need you guys to do. If you have case suggestions, I have a list of about 10 or 15 that I'm working on, which is why, as I previously stated, I moved Old Time Crime to once a month instead of once a week. And I'm starting to work on those. I'm also writing for Missing Persons and Mysteries channel. If you're not already subscribed, head on over there. I wrote the script for Denver International Airport, Kaylaberg, Bohemian Grove, and one coming up about the missing 411 ferry connection. But all of their videos are wonderful. But if you're looking for some Gemma content, those are the 4 videos I've scripted so far. And have a great day. Have your best day. Have your best night. And I will see you super soon. I think I'm going to post my video of winter favorites before I post this one. So guys, again, I love hanging out with you guys. Please comment and let me know what you think is going to happen. Do you have any theories so far? Do you have any comments on what I've told you already? You know, I love discussing. I still respond to every single comment I possibly can, which is pretty much every single comment. So, yeah, leave one. Let's discuss. Bye-bye, guys. Mwah.